Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here this afternoon. I have a couple of things to say, and then, of course, I'll always take your questions. As you know, we are in the midst of a terrible, raging COVID virus. And this has been front and center for over 8 months. I have to stop and thank the people of St. Louis, who by and large have done an excellent job of wearing masks and social distancing. Unfortunately, the virus is still raging. I'm going to have more to say about that in a few minutes. So this past weekend, you may know this, I had a birthday. You probably saw it on Facebook. Birthdays are good, and of course, they also make you think about the future. What comes next? I am now pushing 70. So after a lot of thinking and a lot of discussion with my family, I've decided to retire in April and not file to run for re-election this coming Monday. I've spent 23 years as an elected official in the city. Serving as mayor during these past 4 years has been far and away the biggest honor of my life. It's the people who have made it so great. The people of St. Louis and the thousands of great people who work for our city. 25 years ago, I was living what I thought was my best life. I was married to a great guy. I had 2 little kids, 2 and 5 years old. My husband was an architect. I was a CFO of an international design firm. Then, in the blink of an eye, our lives changed forever. A young man with a gun shot and killed my husband in an attempted carjacking as we all returned home from a trip to Target. Lots of folks suggested that we move, but I knew that taking my kids away from the great neighbors that we had, their playmates, and their school was not the best move for our family. We stayed. And a couple of years later, I decided to try and make our neighborhood better. I was lucky enough to get elected alderwoman of the 28th Ward. During 2 decades on the Board of Aldermen, we made hard decisions that helped the city recover from 2 recessions. And I encouraged economic development and job growth in the 28th Ward and across the city. I took on big tobacco, passing the law that banned indoor smoking. I fought against easy access to guns and led the fight with other aldermen to reduce the size of the board. I have to say that I am so glad to have had the opportunity to serve as mayor and lead during these challenging last 4 years. The civil unrest over the shortcomings of our criminal justice system, a racial reckoning that has been a long time in the making, and the COVID pandemic, hurting so many of our residents, our businesses, and our city's finances. These are tough issues, and they require making tough decisions quickly, with civility, determination, and fairness. During COVID, these last 8 months, we've provided testing, PPE, rental, mortgage, and utility assistance, and shelter for those who need it the most. And we're providing millions in direct aid to small businesses to slow their economic bleeding. Despite those challenges that I mentioned, our city still has great momentum. Over $10 billion in development, either recently completed or under construction. NGA, soccer, SSM's new hospital, Cortex, Preservation Square, many apartment and housing projects. The momentum that we had before COVID is not gone. It is providing jobs today, and it will provide more jobs in the future. And a new mayor will lead us forward. I love St. Louis. I'll always put it first. I'm proud of what we accomplished, but elections are about the future. I know that St. Louis, we have the talent and the heart to build a better St. Louis. Over my remaining term, I will continue to focus every day and until the last day on the pandemic, the economy, and the heartbreaking gun violence traumatizing way too many of our families. Phone call, Kevin?
Sorry.
Is that the boss? Your wife? Okay, can I start that paragraph over? Over my remaining term, I will continue to focus every day until the last day on the pandemic, the economy, and the heartbreaking gun violence traumatizing way too many of our families. When a person is shot or killed on our streets, it's a gut punch to me every time. I know that feeling, and I feel for those families. We, though, have invested in prevention, raises for first responders, summer jobs, recreation, cure violence, 911 diversions, cops and clinicians. As a city and as a region, we must come to grips with the fact that when a young person is shot in any neighborhood, it affects all of our neighborhoods. But, as I said, elections are about the future. It's my huge honor to be the first woman mayor of St. Louis. But many future mayors will be women. And the comments about pearls, hairstyles, and whether it's mayoral to carry a purse will all fade away. I have never been more hopeful that women everywhere, including our great new Vice President-elect, will completely shatter that glass ceiling. I love St. Louis, and I will be rooting hard for the new mayor to be successful. Thank you. I'll take your questions.
Kevin's going to go last, so who's going first? Casey?
Can I ask two?
Yep.
Hi, Casey.
Hi, Mayor. Thank you for your time. Did the protest and the calls for you to step down have any impact on this decision?
You know, they did not. I think when you run for this office, you have to understand the pain of where protests come from. And when you run for this job, you take that on as well. So no, they did not. That's why I recognized in these remarks some of the reckoning that we all have to do. I ran for this job. I accept those challenges.
Are there things regarding the pandemic you might be able to do you wouldn't do if you had to run for election at the same time?
No. You know, the decisions that we have made and we made early on and we continue to make every day with regard to the pandemic are really just doing our very best to look at the data and what's happening in our city and in our region, but in our city, and trying to balance, make really thoughtful, strong, fair decisions to keep as many people healthy as possible, to keep as many people working as possible. Some of you may know this, but the 7-day moving average of new cases in the city of St. Louis per 100,000 people. Sorry, I know that's a lot of number stuff. In the city of St. Louis, yesterday it was 47, about the same today. In St. Louis County, yesterday's number was 85. In the state of Missouri, overall, it was about 80. In St. Charles, it was about 100. In Jefferson and Franklin, it was high. So our numbers in the city, and that's why I began this by thanking the people of St. Louis for by and large, extensive mask wearing, social distancing, and our businesses. So no, we talk about this every single day, Dr. Eccles and my team, about what is the best to do with regard to COVID. And we'll make the same decision tomorrow as we made yesterday.
Andy?
Mayor, what is the impact of the change in election rules just voted in by voters 2 weeks ago? The top two finishers in the primary will have to face off against each other in a runoff.
Right.
You got elected because you beat the Democratic challengers in a multi-way race. And the Democrat who wins the primary wins the general. That's just how it is.
That's how it's been, yes.
Much has been said that in this current setup you couldn't win. Was that an impact, and how much of an impact when you thought about the new landscape?
No, I think having a runoff, if nobody gets 50% in the primary, I think having a runoff is a good idea. Many other cities do that. Chicago does it, and many other cities do it. Now, there aren't any other major cities who have this thing called approval voting, which is vote for as many people as you want, and that'll have to get figured out. But I think that, elections are hard fought in this country. My goodness, we just went through our national elections, and we see how strongly people feel one way or the other. But I think runoffs are, I think we should have runoffs.
Would you have made this decision had the landscape not changed? If it was the same rules?
I would have, because you know what? I'm still pushing 70, Andy. And I hate to say that.
Anyone else? Tim?
Mayor, when we had talked to you not that long ago, I guess it was after Tashara Jones announced she was running, we'd asked if you planned to run, and I think it was, you said, quote, without question, absolutely. What changed in that short amount of time?
Well, I don't know when that was exactly, but these are decisions that evolve over time, and I really think it's been evolving. But having a birthday this past weekend, it does make you stop and think. And elections are about the future, and I don't have a lock on all the good ideas. So elections are about the future, and for me, it's about, well, so what do I want to do in the future too?
Aaron, did you have a question?
Are there any items that are topping your agenda to get done before you leave office?
Well, as I mentioned, we're still, the pandemic is still front and center, but so are making sure that development projects stay on track. I'm very hopeful about next year. And that actually being hopeful about next year is one of the things that makes me want to stay when I analyze this, because I think we are going to have a vaccine. I don't know if it's going to be in December or January or March, but I think we are going to have a vaccine. I think we may have rapid home tests. I think we are going to have a stimulus package. I don't know what it's going to be, when it's going to get here, but I think that even though things look very discouraging right now with our numbers, our COVID numbers, and the number of people that are in the hospital, I think that when you look out a few months, things are going to look a lot better. We all do need to heed the advice that we're receiving right now. Like, please don't have that big intergenerational turkey day. It's too risky, it's too dangerous, but just try to set your sight a little bit further out on the horizon, and I think that I see a lot of reason to be optimistic.
Kim did you have a follow-up? I'm sorry. Or Chuck?
At this point, is there anyone that you would like to see replace you?
I'm not making any endorsement at this point. Of course, the voters ultimately do that. We don't really even know who all will be in the race at this point in time, but.
Anybody else before
Kevin. Call on Kevin. He's already duly embarrassed.
Kevin.
First of all, I apologize for my phone.
That's okay.
And happy birthday. How old are you?
Listen to this guy.
Hey, baby.
Didn't anybody ever tell you weren't supposed to ask women their age?
Well,
I'm 68.
okay.
Is that pushing 70? It's closer to 70 than it is to 65. So.
And the reason I ask that is they say that being mayor does something to you. The long hours, all the stress and personalities. what do you feel as you turn 70, you think, I don't know if I want to be doing this 4 years from now? What was it physically, age-wise, that made you think it's a younger person's game?
Well, I think it's not necessarily a younger person's game, but I've served this city for 23 years. I think I've done some things that have made a big difference, and I'm very proud of the accomplishments of the last 4 years and the 19 before that. But I think, when you're turning 70, maybe I'm going to be taking more walks. I will always do anything I can, in whatever service capacity I can, to help St. Louis.
And a last question for me is, politically, you have been a moderate to progressive candidate. What do you think about the current landscape in St. Louis city politics? There's a lot of progressives who are gaining office, Cori Bush, for example. Mm-hmm. Could you have won this race if you stayed in it? Which way do you think the city's going?
Well, I absolutely think there is a path to winning this. So it wasn't about that. It really was about looking forward and thinking about what you want to do next. And as you know, Kevin, the pendulum swings in this country from ultra-progressive to ultra-conservative. I mean, it swings, and it will continue to do that. Some people have said to me, this was when I was an alderman, that I was the most progressive person that they knew, wanting to ban smoking. At one time, that was radical, guys. But, when you look back on those kinds of things, I think I am a moderate. There's no doubt about that. And I think that serves the largest percentage of people the best.